Oh, here comes a sick one.
Ronnie and Vaughan breaking things down. We're all washed up on the whole down.
Welcome to The Hold Down, the show that is all about celebrating the biggest moments in the sport. This show is twice as good as the 93 Tahiti Pro, which got cancelled due to a lack of swell. I'm your host, Ronnie Blakey, WSL commentator. This is my co-host, Vaughan Blakey, a man that once finished last place in 21 consecutive surf events.
A record even John will struggle to match, Ron.
Mate, surf events, let's get into it. There's 21 championship tour events, hundreds of qualifying events, there's amateur contests, there's club rounds, but mate, there's only a certain number of contests that really stand out and stand the test of time.
Oh, and they stand the test of time for obvious reasons, Ron. First of all, they've been going for ages. Everyone wants to win them, the prestige that's associated with the previous winners. Then you've got the locations, some of the most beautiful and pristine places on earth. And then, after that, the big one, the swell window. How often do these comps turn on? And that's what we'll be looking at today. The contests that have all those ingredients wrapped into one tasty little stoked parcel.
How far back do you go? I'm not sure that we can cover them all, so we're going to be having a look at the best events of the last 10 years. Thanks to our friends at BF Goodrich, here is our number 5. We're kicking things off at the top of the mountain, the granddaddy, the big kahuna, the Tahiti Challenge. This event, since it came on the scene on the Big Wave World Tour back in 2014, has given us so many highlight moments.
For obvious reasons. I mean, when Jaws first came onto the scene, it was getting towed by Laird Hamilton, Derek Doriner. They were literally behind a rubber ducky, getting whipped into waves too fast to paddle. It took over a decade and a half to actually even have guys surfing it consistently. Then someone had the brainstorm, I know, let's have a contest out there. Mind explosion, brain fart. It was the worst idea ever because it was basically throwing people straight over the falls.
Mate, I actually happened to be in Maui when the event ran that first season, and they were the biggest waves I've ever seen in my life. This is before the event, and the first thing that anyone saw once the light popped up, once the sun came above the horizon, was the heroic figure of Shane Dorian just side-slipping down the face of a monster set.
I mean, this is before they've even blown the hood up. So once the guys have pulled the singlets on, they know there's nowhere to hide. It's just them, ocean. Thankfully, these guys knew exactly what they wanted. They wanted a piece of it big time.
Yeah, Billy Kemper ended up being the man on top of the podium at the end of it all. A heroic performance. In fact, all the Maui grommets who grew up watching Laird Hamilton, Dave Kalama tow this place just were on another level. They were swinging on the insiders, finding wedges. It was amazing to witness.
You think of things like Grant Baker coming off the bottom on that ride of the year last year. Just, superhuman stuff. And then there's the wipeouts. Goodness me, haven't we seen a few shockers?
Unbelievable, yeah. The first couple of years, I think every time you were watching someone go over the falls, you thought you were, witnessing certain death. The water safety team that works on this contest, they're the hardest working people in surfing.
I mean, the setup there is just terrifying, right? Cliffs, rocks, open ocean swells exploding all over the place. Absolute mayhem. But I've just got to give props here, Ron, to the performance of the women at this event over the last couple of years has been mind-boggling. Kiala Kennelly finally getting that world title that she deserves so much. Came within a whisker way back in the day against Lane Beachley in Maui. So, finally getting that world title, and props to her. She's been blowing down the doors for years. And a special mention to our friend, dear friend, close friend, Laura Ennifer, for turning and spinning on an absolute beast. Over the falls she went, arms like wet noodles, flying down into God knows where. This is the kind of spirit and the kind of surf we love when we see Tahiti at full flight.
I don't know where we're going to go from here, but you'll have to stick around to find out what comes in at number 4 on our list of all-time surf events, thanks to our mates at BF Goodrich for making it all happen.
Yes!
We're all washed up on the whole game. We're all washed up on the whole game.
Welcome back to The Hold Down with Ronnie and Vaughan, where we dive into all things surfing, and today we're celebrating the greatest surf events on Earth, and we've just kicked things off with number 5, but it's now time to work out what comes in at number 4.
Yes! South Africa, home of the legendary Jeffreys Bay and the J-Bay Open. And how many epic comps can you fit into pro surfing history, Ron? Because J-Bay has delivered over and over and over and over and over again.
Mate, we could wind the clock back, way back into the archives here, but we're not going to. We'll just mention a couple of highlight moments that I think sort of set up this event, and it's probably the reason why it's so prestigious. Joel Parkinson, 1 in 99 as a wildcard, first CT win. Jake Patterson had back-to-back victories back in the day. Michael Munga Barry dominated the contest, and Kelly and Andy had just a memorable final, went right down to the wire and was decided on the sand. But we'll fast forward a little bit because it's in 2015 that this event just captured the imagination of the entire world, not just the surfing world, the entire world.
Gave them nightmares because so much stuff went down in this event. We had Fanning, we had Julian, we had big scary things swimming through the lineup with white teeth, bites.
But Fanning did return the next year. It was another one of those highlight moments for the J-Bay Open. He ended up righting the wrongs, in his words, went on to victory, got the win over John Florence, and set things right. he got the victory that he was so desperately chasing in 2015. Move on to 2017, and I think what you have is one of the most dramatic surf events in the history of the sport.
Pumping waves. Exactly what you want to see at J-Bay when you wake up in the morning, just the mist flying into the air, the silhouettes of all those bushes, and it just pumped relentlessly. And it wasn't just pumping, there was just action galore. The sharks returned. That was one thing. Heats being called off so that big Noahs could swim through the lineup. Then we had the boat captain. What about this lunatic? Driving through mid-heat, cruising through the lineup, singing in one hand, beer in the other, just best seat in the house. How do you like that, boys? And then the heat, of course, wrapping up that final heat with Felipe Toledo, just sending it into the air, pretty much spinning like a top.
And the highlights don't stop there, Vaughan. The women returned to Jeffreys Bay in Championship Tour competition back in 2018, and we saw something special. We had always wondered what Stephanie Gilmore would look like on those long right-handers at Jeffreys Bay, and she didn't disappoint.
The Queen delivered, Ron. The Queen, Stephanie, got to Jeffreys Bay and gave us exactly what we wanted, and that was sublime surfing on the most beautiful, groomed, open faces you can possibly imagine. It was never going to go down any other way.
Now, just one more highlight before we move on. Gabriel Medina getting it done for the goofy footers. There hasn't been many goofy footed champions at Jeffreys Bay since the event came on the schedule, and it's been hanging around for like 20 years.
Well, the Goofies definitely got ants in their knickers over that one, mate, because I'm telling you, they were both in the final. Italo looked like he was just going to repeat his form at Bells Beach, where we saw a similar thing happen. Gabe just took it to another level. What can you say? We've talked about Gabe.
Brilliant.
Too good. Just too good. Who's coming to stop him?
What's sitting at number 3? Let's find out right now.
3!
The Fiji Pro. It was always going to be on the list somewhere. This contest has had magic years, and it's all off the back of one of the best waves in the world. This wave, it sets the benchmark for left-handers. Every other wave is compared to Cloud Break. It's just a gem.
Yeah, and you know, it's sad to see it off tour, but you just know that it's going to come back at some point. You can't have the surfing that we've seen out here and the moments that we've seen out here, Ron. I mean, everything from Kelly Slater beating Mick Fanning in a classic final there, standing arms open, you know, in the hugest pit ever, to the Vaughan Fiji Pro back in 2012, which I was there for, almost got cleaned up by a sort of a rogue set. The sea was angry that day, my friend. But just so many incredible heats and sessions. Owen Wright, I mean, the list goes on and on. It's just a really classic event. And the guys who win here are just on another level. You rarely see Cougs win at Fiji. I mean, it just doesn't happen. Well, if we were doing this list based on the surfers' choices for greatest comp ever, Cloudbreak would win every single time. The Fiji Pro is absolutely their favourite stop on tour, mostly because of that exact reason. It's like Gilligan's Island. They're all stranded on there, but they don't want to get rescued.
Well, stay with us, because after the break, we're going to reveal number 2 on our list of the greatest surf events of all time.
We're all washed up on the whole game. We're all washed up on the whole game.
Welcome back to the Hold Down. Today we're having a look at some of the greatest surf events of all time. It's been a lot of fun to run through this list so far, Vaughan. This next one is going to be extra special though. This is our number 2.
Chopes. The end of the road. Tahiti. Since this thing first came onto the world scene as a QS back in the 90s, Ron, it has just blown our minds consistently, year after year. Even dud years are sick out there. That's how good it is. As a surfer, if there's one comp that you just cancel everything, stay at home, put your TV on, phone dead, watch, it's the Tahiti Pro.
The thing that makes these events so special, I think, is the winners list. The bar was set early. Some amazing names putting themselves on the trophy in Tahiti. First year, Andy Irons won it as a qualifying series event. Kobe Aberton won it in the first big year, getting a huge victory over Conan Hayes in conditions that had 95% of the field absolutely packing bricks.
And the world surf media saying, what is this wave? What is this mutant that we've never even seen before? And it really did change comp surfing, that event. All of a sudden people were like, we're not just on the Dream Tour anymore, we're also on a Nightmare Tour if you don't know how to pack it.
People went from looking at that location saying, you know what, I don't really want a piece of it. I'm going to sit here in the channel and just watch this heat play out, to basically the guy at the back end of the ratings charging as hard as anybody and trying to get himself a piece of the action.
It's true. It's there's nowhere to hide out there. It's a very small lineup and you've just only got that one little spot to sit. And if you get it wrong, you're going to eat reef or get washed into the lagoon. It is so heavy, this wave. And if you look at some of these great performances in the history of this event, there's no question that these guys belong on this trophy.
I think we were all left scratching our heads with what unfolded in 2011.
I remember I was watching it on a phone in New York City. I don't know what I was doing there, probably wasting my life. But I was looking at it going, I don't get this. This does not compute. It looked like ants just getting thrown over, you know, like Niagara Falls. It was so terrifying. And it was just a session that really rewrote the book of what was possible in terms of big wave surfing.
For me, 2014, that was a special one.
This is the benchmark heat. This is what we watch pro surfing for, where you've got not just a narrative that plays out like some sort of fairy tale. You know, Kelly Slater, the greatest of all time, up against a grommet. Used to surf on Kelly's back in the Shoreys when he was a kid. Lives next door, the neighbours, doing battle in the most perfect heavy water waves we've ever seen for a comp, and trading just 9 after 9 after 9.8 after 10. It was just the all-time gladiator battle, wasn't it? It was young versus old. It was the new generation versus the generation on the way out. It was momentum versus view from a blue moon. It just had every single ingredient. And at the end of the day, it was a dead heat. They couldn't pull them apart.
Amazing. Yeah, Kelly getting the jump because he had the highest single rod of the exchange, but it was an epic battle. And the final was all-time as well. Gabriel Medina took on Kelly Slater, and Medina, that was where he basically established himself as a big wave hellman, and obviously has won the event a couple of times. I feel like Tahiti is one of those contests where you don't necessarily have to be a surfer to enjoy it, especially if the waves are big.
If you can somehow get yourself into the channel at Tahiti, do it, because it is one of the great sporting spectacles. Don't worry about the greatest surf comp ever. This is actually, in world sport, one of the best things you will ever see.
But not our number one. So stick around, because after the break, we'll uncover what sits on top of the greatest surf events of the last 10 years.
We're all washed up on the whole game. We're all washed up on the whole game.
Welcome back to the Hold Down with Ronnie and Vaughan. Today, thanks to BF Goodrich Tyres, we are having a look at the greatest surf events, in our opinion, of the last 10 years. We've had a look at some absolute beauties, Vaughan, but there was no denying this next one. The Pipe Masters is our...
When you're a kid and you love surfing and you love pro surfing, there's really only one wave on your radar, and that wave is pipeline. And there's really only one comp that you really care about and that you dream of winning, and that is the Pipeline Masters. It is the biggest, most prestigious, most historically rich, legend-filled, packed-out comp in history, and it never, ever fails to deliver.
Yeah, one of my favourite things about this event, Vaughan, is just the title that you receive if you are victorious. I mean, golf has the Masters, and other sports have majors and Grand Slams, but Pipe Master just sounds so good.
Mate, can you imagine it? Having your name up there with Jeff Hackman, Jerry Lopez, Rory Russell, Andy Irons, Kelly Slater, Johnny Boy Gomes, Michael Ho. So many legends have had their name etched on this trophy. And the thing about it is, that's ancient history. We love you guys. We're not calling you old, but it is ancient history. We want to talk about what's made it great in the last decade.
Yeah, the last 10 years has given us some absolute beauties, because you've got to remember too, it's not just about getting the Pipe Masters title. There's a lot on the line, because this is the final event of the season. World title races are unfolding. Guys have been blowing it all year. They're trying to get a big result and get themselves into a position to re-qualify for the tour. Careers are on the line.
To add to that emotion, Ron, sometimes guys are retiring. We've seen some of the best surfers in the world get cheered up the beach after their final heats there at Pipe. There's just so much going on. Every heat tells a story, and that's why you're just glued to it the whole time. A real favourite of mine is Julian Wilson and Gabriel Medina, the first time they met in a Pipe final. Another one of those niggling heats where it was neck and neck, and then Gabby gets a really big left, looks like he might be closing in, takes the lead, and then Julian, with seconds on the hooter, does a Jake Patterson, pulls in, full nug, gets spat out by the most aggressive vomit you've ever seen, and stands there completely enraptured because he's just become the Pipeline Master.
And a Triple Crown champion.
Wow.
Yeah, that was an exceptional year for him. Adriano de Souza's Pipe Masters victory, that was monster. I mean, here's a guy who is identifying his weaknesses all the time to get himself a world title. Ends up crashing out at Jamie O'Brien's place for the Hawaiian Winter. And man, the payoff was huge.
And you know what I love about Susie's victory, Ron? He might have missed out on being the first Brazilian world champ, but no one will ever stop him from being the first Brazilian Pipe Master. Susie!
2013, another title showdown year. Mick Fanning, Kelly Slater. They've been at it all year and it's all coming down at pipe. Everyone is kind of backing Kelly to get it done. Mick has to get through some pretty tough heats, some pretty close ones, some pretty controversial heat wins, but he gets the job done, makes it to the semi, stitches up that world title. But Kelly goes after the second best thing to a world title, and in some people's opinions, better than a world title. A Pipe Masters victory. He meets John Florence in the final, and he absolutely schools it.
Which brings us to the 2018 Pipeline Masters. Another year where everything's on the line. 2 world title contenders meeting in the final. Gabriel Medina, Julian Wilson, absolutely slugging it out. Foreman, Ali. It's as good as it gets. You just can't beat the Pipe Masters, Ron. We all saw what Gabe got up to. So good. I mean, this is exactly what pro surfing lives and breathes on. It's every element that makes it great. Champions, toe-to-toe, man-on-man action, pumping waves.
And a rematch too. 2014, we saw these guys fight it out for the Pipe Masters title. Medina got the world title, Julian got the Pipe Masters win. 2018, Medina, he gets the world title and he gets the Pipe Masters.
Greedy man.
Cop that, Julian.
One thing's for certain, with its history, with its honour roll, with the wave, the Pipeline Masters is always going to be the greatest show on earth, and I can't wait for it every single December. Ron, booking me ticket right now, mate.
You know what? I think I might join you, VD. Looking forward to another big year of huge contests. Hope you enjoyed the show. Tune in next week as we break down more big moments in the sport of surfing.